Hello, Motoheads, and welcome to some more high-speed action. Last round of the GNCC series. The gate is down. Oh, somebody already went flying. Look at all these members of the Fang Gang in this race. Probably more than half of the riders. This start is crazy. Okay, so this is going to be a long race, Moto Heads. Whoa! There went Black Tar, taking a soil sample already. All right, bar to bar with Jab Wolf going into this series of jumps. Oh! All right, Jab Wolf. Thank you, friend. And here comes Black Tar. The championship will be decided today. It's between me, Black Tar, and Seth, who is probably out front. Okay, we are running 7 out of 7. But like I said, this is going to be a long race. We've got 58 minutes to go. As it started out as an hour race. This is going to be the longest race I've ever done in this game. Okay, so we are cruising along through the trees in 4th gear, pinned. 5th place out of 7. Only 7 people wanted anything to do with this, I don't know, let's call it a marathon GNCC. The real GNCCs are 3 hours long, so this isn't that bad. Okay, running in 5th. All right, Motoheads, I'm going to talk about broken bones today. Motorcycle-related broken bones. I've got a few stories. Some of them are better than others. And stick around and listen to all of them, because the crux of my stories, meaning the best one, or so I've been told, is the time that I hit a full-grown buck mule deer. Whoa! All right, we're going toe-to-toe again with Jab Wolf here. He just took away our top 5. And he's being a little nicer this time. I don't think he took us out on purpose last time. LOL, he probably did. Okay, running in 4th. And I just got to concentrate on not crashing and not getting reset. Okay, so that's Sandy in front of us in 3rd place. He is our new teammate here on Fang Gang Triumph, our latest and 7th addition to the team. So welcome, Sandy. But I'm going to have to catch up to you now and pass you. Okay, so as I was saying, stick around till the end of the video. Actually, not even the end. Anyway, stick around at least for the story where I hit the mule deer going 60 miles an hour on a Harley with no helmet on. I've been told it's a pretty good story. Okay, so we're going to start off with the first time I ever broke a bone on a motorcycle. We got to go back to about 1980. I was 13 years old, and I was riding an XR 185. It was a 1979 XR 185. The bike was way too big for me. All right, I'm reeling Sandy in here. The bike was way too big for me. I had to put it on the kickstand to start it. If I went down, I could not pick it up myself. I was too small. I was a very small 13-year-old. All right, so I was out riding with my brother and my father, and I was the last of us in the line of riding, in the order of riding. And we were going down a hill in Northern California, just north of the Napa Valley, by the Calistoga Trail. Okay, we're putting in a bid here on Sandy. Oh, this is good right here. Oh, and there's Jab Wolf. 3 teammates duking it out in this crazy final stretch here at the Ironman Invitational. Okay, so we got around Sandy, Jab Wolf got around us, and that puts us right where we were in 4th place. Okay, so we were out riding at this place, and we called it the Girl Scout camp because there was a Girl Scout camp up there, and we were doing a downhill, and I just crashed, kind of. I lost the front end. All right, we got around Jab Wolf again, putting us back up into 3rd. So I just misjudged with the front brake, lost the front end. It washed out. I fell down the hill. The bike tumbled after me and landed on my leg, and I was pinned under it. I could not get myself free from my situation. So I was pinned under it for a while before they turned around and came back, and they realized I wasn't with them anymore, and they came back up and rescued me. And my leg hurt. I was limping around. My dad said, "Well, let's wait a day and see how you feel." So the next day, I said, "Yeah, my leg still hurts. I could walk on it, but I was in pain." So we went to the ER, and they took an x-ray. Oh, there's Jab Wolf. All right. Puts us into 4th again. So Jab Wolf went down, caught back up to us, and then passed us. Jab Wolf has just become a better rider than we are. That's all there is to it. He got the PS5. Started grinding just a little bit, and look at him go. Okay, so we went to the ER. They took an x-ray, and they came out and said, yeah, there's no fracture. Probably some kind of sprain or something. I don't remember exactly what they said, but they told me it wasn't broken. And I was like, oh, okay. So I limped around on my leg, and then once it started feeling a little better, this was a couple months later, I jumped off this bridge. It was about 50 feet above the American River, just upstream from Folsom Lake. That's near Sacramento, California. I don't know if you've ever jumped from a height of 50 feet into water. It's scary. At least I think it is. Oh, off the track. Oh, no. We just got reset, moto heads. That's the way it goes. This is racing. So I jumped off the bridge, landed in the water just fine, but it re-injured that same leg. So once again, I just limped it off. Anyway, the only way that I know that I broke it was later in life. I got an MRI done on that leg, and the doctor told me, yeah, it looks like you broke it when you were a teenager as well. And I was like, no. And then I started thinking about it, and I remembered all that, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So anyways, I healed what I'm assuming was a very hairline fracture of my left fib without wearing a cast or anything. No crutches. Okay, so that was number one. The second time I broke a leg on a motorcycle, I was riding with the usual suspects, my brother and my dad. We were riding at a place called Carnegie, and that is in the Bay Area, kind of the South Bay, if you will. Carnegie Hills. Anyway, Carnegie is known for really crazy steep hill climbs. I love that place. So we were riding at Carnegie. We had to drive about 2.5 hours to get to Carnegie, so we got up early, got out there, and my dad wanted to ride on the motocross track because he was going to compete in a motocross race for the Fireman Olympics. Well, by this time, oh, I didn't know you could go on the outside of that tree. I can't believe I didn't get reset just then. So by this time I was riding a 1984 XR 250. I was 17 years old, 6'1", a little bit stronger, still a thin young gentleman, but I could throw that XR around. If anything, it was underpowered for me, and it even had a hot cam in it. Anywho, I decided I'm going to get on the motocross track behind my dad and try to pass him. And when I tried to do that, I found out, first of all, I couldn't make a pass on him because he was starting to leave me. And secondly, I couldn't keep up with him without crashing. I high-sided in a turn. The bike landed on my foot, and my foot got sandwiched in between the bike and a braking bump. One of them sudden stop situations. All right, that was messy. And so I got up and I tried to walk, and I realized immediately I really didn't want to put any weight on my left foot. So I hopped around a little bit. My dad stopped, picked up my bike, got it running for me. I got back on it and followed him down to our van. Took the boot off, and my foot ballooned up huge. I mean huge. That thing was swollen. Oh, that wasn't any good. Still running in fourth. We got 47 minutes left in this GNCC. If you're hanging in this video and watching it till the end, thank you very much. I doubt there's many of those people that do that. Okay, where was I? So my foot ballooned up, and my dad, he was an EMT and all that, and he said, you know, that we definitely got to get x-rays. That looks like some kind of fracture going on there to me. And he said, but first, you know, we just got here. So me and your brother, we're going to do some hill climbs, and I'm going to ride the motocross track some more. And then we'll come back and we'll go ahead and go to the ER on the way home. And I was like, okay, that's cool. My foot didn't really hurt all that bad considering. And my dad put it in the ice chest. We put it on ice, and they went riding for about as long as it took me to drink 3 Bud Lights. And then they came back. We went to the ER, and sure enough, I had 3 broken bones in my left foot. I'm not sure which ones. I don't know about all those bones in feet and hands. And that was the second time I broke bones on a motorcycle. Whoa! Reset again, moto heads. I guess it's going to happen in a long race like this. Well, I guess it doesn't have to. I bet it ain't happening to the leader. Maybe it is, and he's just so fast. Alright, that was the second time I broke bones on a motorcycle. Okay, let's get into the third time. Okay, we gotta do a little more time traveling. This time we're going to 2002. and I was riding the fastest dirt bike I've ever owned. This motorcycle was violent. When you came out of a turn and dumped the clutch in second gear, it was a matter of survival, trying not to crash before you got to the next turn. I would just keep it in third, roll through the turn, open the gas, and make it to the next turn in one piece, and I'm not even exaggerating. This thing was powerful. It was a 1999 YZ400F. If you know, you know. This thing had a 5-valve head. All right, we're doing pretty good right now. All right, this bike was a serious machine, and ever since then, any 450 or 500 or whatever that I've ridden has seemed detuned, because they are, compared to this bike. It was not for mortal men to ride, I'll tell you that. Alright, anyways. I hadn't ridden that bike in about a year. I had a hiatus there for several reasons, mostly financial. Anyway, I finally got my stuff together for a minute, and what happened, I'll just tell you, what happened was I moved back to Colorado after living in Michigan for a minute. So the first thing I wanted to do was go riding on my old motocross track in Berthoud. I used to have a season pass there. I used to tear up that track on my XR600. A lot of people think, oh, an XR600 on a motocross track. Actually, that can work, motoheads. I had a blast. I did all the jumps. It was fun. Okay, so I went back to that track, this time on this super potent 5-valve Genesis style motor. And I decided I was just going to ride it like I used to, without really giving myself a chance to warm up. Woo! I thought we were going down there. And I did a simple obstacle. It was a double single. That's the way it was designed. That's the only way you could do it. It was not designed to be a triple. It just didn't work that way, the way it was. So I did the double, got cross-rutted, and I crashed when I landed and went over the single. And I went down, and I knew immediately, as soon as I tried to use my right arm, and it wasn't cooperating. My right arm said, no, we are on strike right now. We're not going to help you out with anything physical. So this other dude stopped. And to make a long story short, he helped me load the bike into my pickup. At the time, I drove a Toyota SR5 pickup, little four-wheel drive pickup with a 6-foot bed. Whoa. That was sketchy. And we still have more than 40 minutes left to go in this moto. We got somebody creeping up behind us here, motoheads. I just noticed that. Okay, where was I? What was I talking? Oh yeah, so he helped me load the bike into the truck. It was a stick shift. But I'm a pretty good driver, so I could use my knee, and I just used my left hand to do the stick shift and to steer the steering wheel. And like I said, I used my knee to hold the steering wheel now and again when I needed to. Anyway, I drove around like that for 3 days before I finally came to the terms that something was wrong enough to where I had to go to the doctor. So I went to the ER. The guy came out, he said, wow, you must be in a lot of pain. I said, well, to be honest, it's not that painful. My arm just doesn't want to work. And as it turns out, I broke my scapula, which is your shoulder blade. And that was actually a pretty easy heal. All you got to do is wear a sling for like 6 weeks. The only problem with that is I'm right-handed, So I was out of work, of course. But I'll tell you my main issue here, Moto Heads. Oh, I don't want to get reset again. I just couldn't get used to wiping my butt with my left hand. There, I said it. All right, so that was another break. I'm not sure, what was that, the third one, something like that? Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next break. And this is going to be the story that I was telling you about. When I hit the deer on the Harley, we got somebody down in front of us that looks like Jab Wolf. And I think either he's doing some team tactics and he's waiting up for us. Whoa, I didn't know you could do that. Or something happened IRL. Oh, I didn't know you could do that either. Regardless, we're on Jab Wolf's heels again. Sandy has fallen off the pace behind us, it looks like. Okay, so the Harley story. So I was riding my Harley. It was a 2008 Springer Softail, 96 cubic inch, 6-speed. Oh, twin cam motor. I know Harley gets a lot of hate, but to be honest, their stuff nowadays is pretty reliable. I put 80,000 miles on that Springer Softail before I sold it. The furthest I've ever ridden in one day on a motorcycle, I did it on that bike, 1,200 miles. Took me 23 and a half hours. All right, we just got around Jab Wolf. Or did we? I don't know. We're doing a drag race through this chopped up finish stretch. All right, puts us up into third place here. And Jab Wolf now, he might just be messing with us. He likes to, I think he likes to be in the videos. And who can blame him? Okay, so where was I? That Harley, yeah, I rode that Harley a lot. And I never knew it, but you can ride a Harley like that as long as you keep the motor relatively stock. You can ride it at 95 miles an hour pretty much all day. And into the night, I might add. All right, we are duking it out here with Jab Wolf. Oh, pushed us off the track a little bit, or did he? I don't know, my eyes are starting to tear up a little bit. Common effect with me on this game, I don't know what it is. It's like I'm afraid to blink or something. Yeah, he's got a good line there. He might be just showing us lines right now, like that one. I didn't know you could do that. That's a good teammate right there, Moto Heads. That's another theory. He could have slowed down just to get in front of me, just to show me the faster lines. As far as the championship is concerned, Seth only needs to make up 5 points on Black Tar. And Seth is in first place right now. Fangster is in second, just about 10 seconds behind him. We are running in third, so you know Black Tar is not in front of us. So if it stays like this, championship for Seth. If I get around Black Tar, if I get around Fangster and into second place, Seth will still get the championship. Okay, running in third. I kind of lost track of how we got up into third. Okay, so I'm not going to lie. I love that Harley Davidson. I did. That was a cool bike. With the Springer front end. Alright, so during the time that I had that bike, I had a wife for a while. And this lady was fearless. She would get on the back of that bike, and I would, as most people would probably say, I would ride it like an idiot. We would race crotch rockets on that thing. Man, it was fun. I rode that thing up and down Highway 1 in California. For about 2 hours, I was duking it out with this guy on a Ducati. So fun. And that was when the bike was still completely stock. After that, I put a pipe on it and got a little more power out of it. This bike came stock with only like 65 horsepower or something like that. And that guy on the Ducati, he would leave me in the straightaway, and then I would watch his brake when he would hit his brakes, and I would just wait at least another however many feet before I even hit my brakes going into the turn. And then I would just rail the turn way faster than him, and I'd be right on his butt by the next straightaway, and he'd pull it out again. It was so fun. It was a fun day. I remember one time I got into a battle with a crotch rocket. I was riding a Victory at the time. It was a Victory Hammer S, a 2016 model. And I got into it with this crotch rocket out in California, somewhere between Santa Cruz and San Jose. And it was epic because there was traffic. We were weaving in and out of traffic, dodging each other and cars, and oh man, we gave each other the biggest salute after all of that. I can't imagine how many people called us idiots at that moment because we were freaking people out. It was fun. Anyway, that's the way I used to ride with my ex-wife on the back as well. But here's the kicker. I'm a helmet guy. She was a little nutty. And anyway, she was not about helmets. She wasn't going to wear a helmet no matter what. And the last thing I was going to do was go riding with a helmet on, with a passenger, and no helmet. So out of respect, I would also go helmetless. So we're tearing up the canyon. Really windy road. It's probably about 5 p.m. in the month of October. And now from what I understand, 90% of deer-related accidents happen in October and November. The deer, they're rutting, if I'm not mistaken, and they also get drunk off fermented berries and things that they eat. And they just tend to do things like jump in front of Harley Davidsons more commonly than other times of the year. And it was also just at that time where deer are looking for water and going on the move and crossing roads. Just that time of the day. That's usually in the morning or in the evening. So there was a big mule deer up the canyon, unbeknownst to me, poking around, doing his thing, and he had a small parasite burrowed into his flesh. It was a little deer tick, who I would later affectionately name Chewy. Okay, so I'm going up the canyon exactly at the speed limit, motoheads. I want to make that clear. At no time during this incident did I break the law, or would I ever. So I'm riding my motorcycle exactly at the speed limit, going up the canyon, scraping my floorboards, and we come across the pickup. Now the pickup, they're law-abiding citizens. They are also doing the exact speed limit, motorheads. We just happen to be doing the exact speed limit a lot faster than they were doing the exact speed limit. And I don't recall exactly how it happened, but the next thing I know, we were in front of the pickup truck. All right, putting in another lap. We still have 29 minutes to go here in this race. Running in third. Ugh. We got Super Sandy behind us, and then he got around Jab Wolf. Maybe Jab Wolf's just tired, I don't know. Okay, where was I? Alright, so we had just made a reckless and dangerous pass around a pickup. Went through a couple turns, probably doing about 40, 45 miles an hour. I mean, exactly the speed limit, whatever that might have been. Opened up the gas. And that's when Chewy could hear my motor coming. That by this time this Harley had a pipe on it. It was a 2-into-1 super trap. If you know, you know. So it made a little bit of noise. And Chewy wasn't the only one that heard the motor coming. His host, in the form of a full-grown buck mule deer, also heard it. Raises his head like, what the? Well, the next thing I know, this deer, let's just call him Sausage. That'd be a good name for him, Sausage. Sausage leaps out from behind a bush and into the road right in front of me, giving me just enough time to think to myself, you know, like, this is the way we're gonna die. Oh well, you know, that's nothing I can do about it really. However, my instincts kind of said otherwise, because being a pretty experienced motorcyclist, I have saved myself from going down and crashing a lot of times. I have also tried to save myself from crashing on motorcycles unsuccessfully pretty much every time I've crashed. Instinctively, I grabbed onto those handlebars with all my might. And at this point in life, motorheads, I was a strong dude. So I hit old Sausage with that Springer front end, dead center. If Sausage was a battleship, Sausage would have sank immediately. Alright, so when I hit Sausage, my handlebars pushed all the way forward. I was all the way up onto the gas tank, and Sausage bounced forward. But when I hit him, he wrapped around me in the motorcycle, and his hindquarters made a number 2 on my right leg. And then on my left side, his head hit my leg into the gas tank, and it broke my fib. So after Sausage bounced off the bike, I couldn't believe it, but we were still rolling. My handlebars were all the way forward. They were a set of mini ape hangers. My wife was just fine on the back of the bike, but my leg hurt. So, I looked down as we were still rolling, and just as I noticed what was going on, just as I noticed one of my injuries, my ex-wife said it to me at the same time. She said, "You have an antler in your thigh." So that's when I knew I wasn't dreaming. She was confirming it. I had part of the rack protruding from my thigh. Now, what you don't want to do in a situation like this is pull the object out of the wound. You could likely bleed to death if the scenario is just right. Well, I didn't know that, motoheads. So I said to her, as we're still rolling, "Pull it out." So she grabbed on to the rack, gave it a yank, and it didn't come out. I'm still in shock, kind of. I don't know about in shock, but I've got a lot of adrenaline going on. I'm not feeling any pain with this antler situation. All of my pain sensation is coming from my lower leg, and that's where I had the broken fib. So, without hesitation, she gives it another yank, and just like that, the antler comes out of the wound. She discards it to the side of the road, and at this point, we're coming to a stop. So I put my right foot down. She gets off the bike, and I tell her, "Hey, use your hands and put down the kickstand. My left leg's not working so good." So she puts the kickstand of the bike down. I'm looking at the damage. It's a little bent up, but we were still rolling. As it turns out, the whole front end would need replacement. And I get off the bike, and I do a couple hops on my right foot, and then I just sit on the cement in which I brought the bike to a halt ultimately, which was the driveway just outside of a volunteer fire station. We just got reset. I did not see that coming going off the track. Oh, and we hit a tree. We just lost third place here, motoheads. That's got to be Jabwolf in front of us now, I'm assuming. I don't know what happened to Tito. He might have dropped out. We got 6 racers left. Somebody dropped out. That could be Tito. I don't know at this point. We still got 21 and a half minutes plus a log lap. Where was I in this story? I just lost track. Getting a little brain dead here. Okay, the antler. Oh, we stopped at the volunteer fire station. And as it turns out, that pickup truck that we had just passed was a neighbor of mine. 2 neighbors of mine, actually, a married couple. And he was a volunteer at this volunteer fire station. So they pulled in, opened up the big garage door. The next thing I know, I'm on a stretcher. They got an oxygen mask on me, and they're probing my wound. Motoheads, I was so lucky. I would say maybe 5-6 drops of blood came out of that wound. How deep did the antler go into my leg? Well, we're going to get into that. Anyway, one of the paramedics was a local hillbilly mountain man from up in my neighborhood. I went ahead and gave him permission to take the deer. Old Sausage, whoa! he just went down. We got back into third place. Old Sausage was removed from the scene before I was, Motoheads. And he ended up being made into, well, you guessed it, Sausage. So I'm laid out on this stretcher, and I'm thinking, this sure is a lot of people. You know, there's at least 5 people around me. A bunch of medical equipment. And that's when my ex-wife says, hey, there's something on your eyebrow. And she reaches down and she pulls off this little deer tick by the name of Chewy. And that's how I met Chewy. We had to go separate ways at that point. My father-in-law at the time came and picked us up real quick, took us to the ER. I begged the paramedics to keep an ambulance out of it, and they complied. I thank them for that still. So we go into the ER. I tell them the story. They're like, huh. When they probed my leg wound with the hemostats, that instrument just kept going in. So they went ahead and did the MRI on my leg. They came back and told me my fib was broken, and that's when they told me, and it looks like it was broken sometime when you were a teenager as well. I don't think so. Huh. Oh, wait a minute. And that's when I remembered story number 1. Oh, coming up short on that triple. We got somebody behind us. Okay, so one of the reasons that they did the MRI of the upper part of my leg, I believe they did x-rays first is what it was. That's what it was. They did x-rays first, told me my fib was broken, and that possibly my femur was broken as well. And I was like, no, my femur's not broken. I would know it if my femur was broken. That's when they busted out the MRI machine. Now it's all coming back to me. They gave me the MRI, told me that my fib was broken, and that I had broken it when I was a teenager. And they'd also told me that the reason that they thought that the x-ray said that I might have had a broken femur was because the antler had actually went in and put a small scrape onto my femur bone. So that's how deep the antler went. That's why it took her 2 yanks to get that thing out of my leg. And I'm kind of thankful for the broken fib because it took the pain away from the puncture wound. Alright, so that was the story of that broken bone. The story was really more about the antler, let's face it. That's why people say that's a good story. We still have more than 15 minutes left in this race. Leave a comment on how long you think it's going to take to upload this video. I'm thinking it's going to take about 3.5 hours, but we will see. Okay, Motoheads, that's not the end of it when it comes to the broken bones. I got one more story. Now keep in mind, my father before me, he probably broke at least twice the amount of bones that I did on motorcycles. My older brother probably broke about half the amount of bones that I have. And he is the fastest rider out of the 3 of us. Or I should say was. I'm talking about times gone by here. Okay, so my last time breaking bones on a motorcycle. It was my last running dirt bike. CRF 450X 2000 model. And I was riding out. We went out for a 4-day riding trip near Green River, Utah. And we went out, and I was having the time of my life. I love riding out there. To me, it was unexplored territory. The first place we were riding on day 1, which was actually near Rabbit Valley, which is in Colorado. So we were riding on day 1 right near the Colorado border between Colorado and Utah. And that's some good dirt biking, motoheads. It's just amazing out there. Anyways, about halfway through day 1, I was out hot rodding out in front, and I don't even know what happened, but I lost the front end and I went down in a bunch of baby head rocks. And just got reset back into 4th place. I didn't even realize that he was right there. All right, let's see what we can do with this. So anyways, I land on all these rocks. And I'll just tell you right now, motoheads, this is the one. This is the injury that made me cry like a little baby. Not at first. Not at the scene of the accident. I'll get into that in a little bit here. Whoa! Thought we were going to get reset for sure there. If we get around Jab Wolf here or not, it doesn't matter in the championship. We are not going to win it unless Seth has some kind of mechanical. If that was the case, well, you never know. Oh, we're behind Sandy. I thought that was Jab Wolf in front of us. So Sandy is lurking in the championship there. Oh, and Black Tar just had a mechanical. He is now out of it. Getting back around Sandy. And tripling here. We've already been racing out here for a good 45 minutes. And we're still duking it out with Sandy after all that. That's pretty cool. He is right there. All right, we were flirting with the side of the track trying to avoid that jump. Oh, I thought we were going to get reset there. It happens all the time. Every race here at the GNCC has max deform. And it is definitely affecting the track right now. Okay, so we're in 3rd after we got around Sandy. Oh, that's right, I forgot. Sandy did get around Jab Wolf. We only got 5. We've only got 5 riders left here. In this hour-long event, I thought we were going to get reset again. And it looks like Sandy made a couple of mistakes. I don't know if he crashed or got reset or what. But that gives us a little bit of a cushion again. Here with 11 minutes left. Alright, so we're in Utah. There's about 7 of us, I think, riding. I'm out front. I go down. I land in the rocks. I know immediately something's wrong with my leg. And I felt maybe a little bit dingy, like I was seeing some stars. I definitely hit my helmet pretty hard. And a couple of the other riders that I was riding with, well, one of the other riders that I was riding with, I've known this guy a long time. I met him in 1986. Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I met him in basic training. God, he was a monster back then. That guy back then, on the last PT test, meaning physical training. On the push-ups, you do as many push-ups as you can in 2 minutes. And this guy did 148 push-ups. That sounds unbelievable, but I was there. And it helps when you're about 5'5" with really short arms. Anyway, he was there. I went down. He came. I told him, hey man, I think my leg is hurt. So him and another guy got me back up on my bike ultimately. I definitely took my time because I did feel like I had a mild concussion. At one point, I got a little woozy, I ain't gonna lie. Anyways, got back up on the bike. They said, do you want it in first or second gear? Because it was my left leg that was jacked up again. And I said, first gear, please. Well, we were going to ride to Rabbit Valley, Colorado. Somebody was going to go get a pickup, etc., etc. Eventually, I would make it to the VA emergency room over in Grand Junction, Colorado. But before that, I had to ride out, I think it was 8 miles, which actually isn't too far considering where we were riding. It could have been further. Now the only problem with this was I had all these guys escorting me, and they kept like checking on me, giving me the thumbs up and this and that. I'm like, guys, every time you ride my speed, I'm getting dusted out. Either ride behind me or way in front of me or something. Just stop dusting me out. And then there was a bunch of really deep silt on the way out of there where I was just gripping my bars in first gear. And I was gripping my bars so tight, trying to avoid from dumping it, that I started to get serious cramps in my forearms and my hands. It was a long 8 miles to ride out of there. Then I had a lot of waiting around and things like that before I finally got to the hospital, or the VA, whatever you want to call it. So, you know, I'd always said that like biting my tongue real hard or stubbing my toe real bad hurts more than breaking a bone, to generalize. That's kind of the way I felt. Yeah, it hurt. My leg hurt. But it wasn't like I was writhing in pain or anything like that. Until my second surgery. Okay, what happened was I went to Grand Junction's VA, and they said, oh, we don't have the right screws here on hand. Otherwise, we'd just throw 2 screws into your bone, and you'd be out of here. And I'm like, oh, cool. It's not that bad of an injury, but it does require a little bit of scalpel, maybe some anesthesia, a bullet to bite on. But it sounds like everything's going to be okay. And they said, yeah, we're going to send you to the Denver VA because you live more close over to there. And I said, okay, no problem. So the next day I got a ride from Utah to Denver. I went to the VA, and they took a couple of x-rays or whatever they did, and they came and told me, this is way above our pay grade. Your leg is messed up. It's called a tibia plateau fracture. They proceeded to tell me, you're lucky we have the technology we do now, or this could be like a 6-month healing process. I'm like, whoa, no, man. The guy said just a couple screws and I'm good to go. They were like, nope. Matter of fact, we don't have smart enough people at the VA to do this. We're gonna pay for it and send you to the experts. And here in Colorado, we have a lot of orthopedic experts because of all the ski areas. Matter of fact, the top motocross riders come to Vail, Colorado to get their work done. Alright, so I got this hotshot surgeon. He ended up doing 2 surgeries on me, put a bunch of plates and screws in, and when I got out of that second surgery, Motoheads, that's when I cried like a little baby. I've never had any pain like that in my life. Definitely the top most painful thing I've ever experienced. And that injury still bothers me to this day. And when it was all said and done, the doctor told me, by the way, you only have 10 years now on this knee, and then you need a knee replacement. I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? I guess he would know better than me. It hasn't been 10 years yet. And since then, I have done a couple through hikes, which were actually good physical therapy for the injury itself. Okay, Motoheads, if you are still with me, leave a comment. Broken bones, spelled with a Z at the end. I doubt I see one comment like that. Trying to relax my hands here. Trying to blink as often as I can. Looks like Fangster's in second place. Well behind Seth. I'm just going to say right now, congrats to Seth for winning this GNCC championship. Oh, by the way, Motoheads, when I got that tibia plateau fracture, I also broke my left fib again in 2 places. So 3 different incidences have left that bone broken with a total of 4 breaks. That's my lucky bone, my left fib. Getting ready to cross the finish line with 2 minutes left. I'm wondering if we're going to get lapped at this point. Nobody in front of us. There's Jab Wolf in 4th place, just crossing the finish line. I'm hoping we can maintain this 3rd. You never know what's going to happen in these last few minutes of this really long race. By video game standards, that is. Alright, I'll go ahead and lay down one more quick story here, Motoheads. No broken bones, but it involved a hare scrambles race. It was a dead engine start. I was riding a 1996 XR 600R Honda, and I couldn't get that thing started at first. That thing would start on the second kick cold every time, but when it was hot, you never really could tell, and it was warmed up. It wasn't a good time to start the motor. Whenever I rode that bike, I would never stop unless I had a little downhill to bump start it on. It bump started really easy, and it never stalled. It was almost like having an electric start, just to have a little bit of gravity on your side. Anyway, I did all kinds of training for this hare scrambles race. It was a 2.5-hour race. I was doing 3 hours straight on the motocross track at the time. It was the same track where I broke my scapula, or scapula, however you say it. Anyway, they would get a 6.5 mile lap out of the facility. I couldn't get the bike started at the start, so I had a lot of catching up and a lot of passes to make. I was probably halfway through the first lap, and the next thing I knew, I was on a different part of the track, and my handlebars were all bent up, and I was wondering how I got there and what was going on. I knew I was in the race, but I didn't. Everything was just confusing. I do not remember crashing. I do not remember getting going again. And then I noticed there was an ambulance up there, because there's always one on site at a race. So I drove over to it, and I talked to the nice lady there. She gave me some oxygen to breathe for no charge, diagnosed me with a concussion, and it was pretty obvious to me by that time. When she asked me which way a certain town was, and I pointed the opposite direction. Oh, and by the way, when I was trying to get to that ambulance, it kept moving to my left. I would have to stop and reorient myself, and then I'd start riding straight towards it, and the next thing I know, it would move to my left. So it was weird. It was weird. It was definitely the weirdest concussion I ever got. Just to kind of, it was like I came to on the motorcycle riding, like I was in, just like in racer mode. Got to get back up, got to get going again. Not even remembering any of that. That was very strange. That was a good one. So I don't even know what happened or how I crashed. I know I was making some passes, and I was hauling ass. 2-lap board is out. I'm assuming we're not going to be allowed to finish this race. Maybe I'm wrong. It's been a long one. I used to love those hare scramble races, though, the 2.5-hour races. I got third in the vet class in the championship in the year 2000 out there. That was pretty cool. The guy that won the championship, he didn't race in the vet class the last race. He raced in the senior class because he turned 40. So he didn't even have to race in the last race to win the championship. That's how dominant he was. And then he went out and won the senior class in the last race. That was pretty cool. I would see that guy out on the track every once in a while. And he was fast. He was on a Suzuki 2-stroke 250. It was like the RM 250, but the Enduro version. I forget what it was called. And I remember one time he flew past me and he roosted me. And he hit me in the knee with a rock just above my knee guard. Speaking of knee guards, when I went down and broke my leg real bad in Utah, Motoheads, I had the best knee guards on in the group. And that still happened. Final lap, white flag. Hanging in there, me and 4 other dudes. We appreciate you guys hanging out. Okay, 4th place just crossed the line. That's Jab Wolf. I thought that was going to be the winner that just crossed the line, but not yet. So, and then there's Sandy running in 5th. My newest teammate. Okay, and there's the winner. Seth wins the race. Hour-long race. Wins the championship. Didn't even start racing this series until we were like 2 or 3 rounds into it. Missed a round one time because of some terrible, awful incident that he had. He got called into work. Thoughts and prayers. All right, Motoheads. waiting on top 3, and we are in 3rd. That means we're definitely going to be able to ride out this lap with some dignity. I don't see anybody behind us. This is going to put us 2nd place in the championship. And I'm not sure behind us. It could be Black Tar. It could be Sandy in 3rd place. Yeah, this is a lonely 3rd place. Nobody around us. One last time through this little creek here. And then we're gonna make a right and hit that final stretch, the bumpy one. Here it is. Thanks again for sticking with us, Moto Heads. We're going to cover the results in the championship. All right, Moto Heads, we got a 3rd place, obviously. Props and respect to the 5 guys who finished. Okay, Seth gets a number 1 plate. Pop the champagne. We got a 2nd. Black Tart in 3rd over Sandy. Dude, where's my quad? Only racing like half the races. Still ends up in 5th place. Fankster in 6th. Minty in 7th. And Jabwolf moves up to 8th. Thank you to everybody who raced the entire season long. Even if you only raced 1 race. Whatever you guys do from here, have fun with it. And we will see you in the next moto.